And now the other thing that happens when we're in protection mode is we start, of course, because now we feel like there is a threat of some sort, we start to, of course, bring up thoughts that are bringing up emotions of anxiety, uncertainty, doubt, a lot of fear. And the thoughts also are reflective of worst case scenarios. That's why when we're stressed or when we're always worried, we're projecting thoughts in the future, worried about what might happen, worried if this happens, what am I going to do? Or worried about how we're going to lose certain things, or worried about certain people getting injured or us getting injured or getting ill. And so when we are in protection mode, and a great telltale sign to know if we're in protection mode, our thoughts are always focused on worst case scenarios. We're projecting thoughts into the future. Maybe even we're projecting thoughts into the past. So we're bringing up past memories. We're maybe reliving certain scenarios that happened, feeling a lot of regret, feeling a lot of doubt, maybe shame. And so those are the signs that we are in protection mode. And those are the emotions that come up when we are in protection mode. Welcome back, friends. I'm your host, Shaban. And with each episode, I am honored to be your coaching guide in the journey to make peace with food, fall in love with fitness, and ultimately yourself. My intention in each episode is to help you release the old story of who you are and step into the one you're always meant to be. We'll challenge conventional diet and fitness culture and understand the importance of tuning out all the shoulds they tell us to do and tuning into our own inner wisdom instead. What you focus on, you create more of. Through these conversations, you'll shift your focus from what you're supposed to be doing to who you want to be, so that health and fitness and ease around food is not just what you do, but who you are. And if you find that this conversation resonates with you today, then I want to invite you to join our free Make Peace with Food Facebook community at myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com, where you can connect with me and my team directly and access all the free trainings and resources we have for you so you can regulate your nervous system and make peace with food. And then also remember to share this episode with someone who you think needs to hear this today. The links are in the show notes. All right, now let's get into it. When we spoke about protection mode and safety mode, we spoke about how when we are in protection mode, it's really our body's strategy and mechanism to survive. It is the only way that we can actually use, let's call it super powerful strength to be able to do certain functions. So here's what I mean. The moment that we are in protection mode, the priority of the body now becomes the limbs. So it becomes the arms, it becomes the legs, it's the extremities. It's no longer the digestive system, because our body has to prepare for us to use adrenaline, to run, maybe to fight, again, to hide. So really to seek out survival. And now the other thing that happens when we're in protection mode is we start, of course, because now we feel like there is a threat of some sort, we start to, of course, bring up thoughts that are bringing up emotions of anxiety, uncertainty, doubt, a lot of fear. And the thoughts also are reflective of worst case scenarios. That's why when we're stressed or when we're always worried, we're projecting thoughts in the future, worried about what might happen, worried if this happens, what am I going to do? Or worried about how we're going to lose certain things, or worried about certain people getting injured or us getting injured or getting ill. And so when we are in protection mode, and a great telltale sign to know if we're in protection mode, our thoughts are always focused on worst case scenarios. We're projecting thoughts into the future. Maybe even we're projecting thoughts into the past. So we're bringing up past memories. We're maybe reliving certain scenarios that happened, feeling a lot of regret, feeling a lot of doubt, maybe shame. And so those are the signs that we are in protection mode. And those are the emotions that come up when we are in protection mode. And so if we now tie that into emotional eating or stress eating, think about how when we bring up these emotions because of our thoughts, we start to think of stressful things, then all of a sudden we start to get stressed, and then we need an outlet. And so we use food as an outlet. And I also want to say something really important here. I know we're talking about food often, and the conversation is always around food and unwanted eating behavior. But I also want to tell you that oftentimes any unwanted behavior, even though it's eating, could be layered with another behavior. So another behavior could be drinking, or the use of recreational drugs, or even sex, or porn, or shopping, or gambling. And so if we really are going to move towards healing, it's so important to be honest. It's so important to be honest with self and just say, hey, this is what's going on. And I actually noticed that I tend to engage in more of these unwanted eating behaviors also when I'm drinking, or also maybe when I've smoked pot, or when I feel overwhelmed in certain areas of my life and it's my relationship that ends up triggering it. So you're going to start to notice all these links and connections, and the more awareness that you create around what's really going on, the more you're actually going to be able to address these, and without any judgment, without this being a good or bad thing, without you feeling that you're good or bad for engaging in these behaviors, you're going to be able to take actionable steps towards healing your unwanted eating behaviors, and more importantly, your relationship with food and other substances. And so that is the gist of protection mode, is that when we are in protection mode, we actually are not using the rational part of the brain, so the frontal lobe, where we're actually able to be analytical, and we maybe are able to predict what might happen. If I eat this, then I'm going to feel really, really bad in about an hour. I'm not going to feel well. I'm going to feel heavy. I'm going to maybe have heartburn. I'm going to feel indigestion. I may not sleep well. And so we bypass that part of the brain, and instead we use the primitive part of the brain. We use what's called the reptilian part of the brain, that is a reactive brain. This part of the brain is just wired for reaction. It sees a particular input, and then right away it responds in a reactive way. Again, this is when we talk about protection mode, this is not a negative thing. Our goal is not to get rid of protection mode, right? Sympathetic nervous state, because it serves a very valuable function. However, the issue now becomes when we've chronically set ourselves in protection mode. And many of us are not even aware of that, because it's been not just years, it's been decades that we've been in protection mode. We've just adapted to that becoming our normal. Our discussion today, just to add in one more layer of the conversation around protection mode and safety mode, is how do we trigger protection mode? How do we get our body in this chronic state of protection mode? And so I take a moment here just to center myself, because this ends up being a conversation that, again, is very touching to me. It's very dear in my heart. And many of us have actually triggered protection mode because of some sort of trauma in the past. And it really pains me so much to think about this. And even the majority of the women that join our group have had some sort of sexual trauma or some physical trauma. And unawareingly, this has actually locked them into protection mode for so long. And again, it's the body's natural response to feeling unsafe in the environment. It's the body's natural response to seeking out survival. And so I don't take this conversation lightly. It's a very important one to address. And I've had also my experiences with trauma in the past, and having worked with thousands of women addressing traumatic events, it never becomes this place of relaxation or comfort to talk about. But instead, I want to share with you that this is also a space where you can feel vulnerable. If ever you want to reach out to me to talk about something that you've experienced that you're noticing may actually is coming up for you as we're having these conversations, just please know that I'm always a resource for you, and you can connect with me at any time to do that. And so when we are feeling unsafe in our environment due to trauma, so sexual trauma, physical trauma, emotional trauma, then we automatically trigger protection mode. And then the other way that we also trigger protection mode is through food scarcity, which is actually also a traumatic event if you think about it. So there are many women who join our programs who've actually grown up in environments where food really was scarce, where they really did grow up and had no food. They went to bed hungry often, or they were living off of food stamps, or they were raised in foster homes where, again, food was not enough for everyone. And so that is considered also a food scarcity and also a form of trauma. But another form of food scarcity that actually we impose on ourselves, and we call this an imposed food scarcity, is through dieting. Dieting also makes us feel unsafe. If you've ever noticed, and if ever you've actually tracked that one moment where you started the unwanted eating behaviors, if you've had a long history of dieting, you'll notice that that unwanted eating behavior actually started the moment you started dieting. And so when we diet, we restrict, we deny ourselves of food. We actually make ourselves hungry. And the body's response to hunger is a threat. There's a threat. There's something going on in the environment, and I have to do something to protect myself. I have to ensure my survival. And so with chronic dieting, not only do we get into protection mode, but more importantly, we actually get ourselves into the state where we're slowing down our metabolism, and we are starting to feel a little bit anxious around food, you'll notice that if you've tried several diets one after the other, you may find that you feel very uncomfortable around food. You don't know what to choose, or you might even feel guilty just to eat. And you may not even be in tune with your hunger levels or your satiety levels, especially if that's coupled with binge eating or nighttime snacking. And so it's so important to know, again, that we get into protection mode simply through our environment. And we get into these thought processes, again, through triggers in our environment. So when we are feeling unsafe in our environment, that's where we start to bring up those thoughts of uncertainty, of doubt, of fear, of not enoughness, of possible worst case scenarios happening. And as a result of that, we again continue to stay in that loop longer. Now we're feeling all those emotions, and now those emotions are driving actions. Now we're self-sabotaging, or we're acting in a way that doesn't feel rational to us. Because remember, it's that reflexive part of the brain that's working, and not that rational part of the brain, not the part of the brain that takes action, but that part of the brain that's always in reaction. Thank you so much for joining in today and for tuning in. Remember, we are always a resource for you. If ever you need anything, feel free to reach out. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next week. Thanks for listening to this episode. Whether you're already on your wellness journey or just getting started, we're in this together. If this has resonated with you today, I want to invite you to subscribe to the show so you never miss a beat. And if you know someone who could benefit from this conversation, then please share this episode with them. Let's work together to help as many people as possible make peace with food and fall in love with fitness. And also, don't forget to visit myfoodfreedomlifestyle.com to join the free Facebook group for more resources. Remember, you are an inspiration. I can't wait to hear your story. See you next time.